So we're gonna move on to Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones. So this one came out just a few years later. George Lucas still behind the camera. It jumped time frame. I want to say like what? What do you think? 6, 7 years?
No, it jumped 10 years.
It jumped 10 years.
10
okay.
Years, full 10 years.
So it jumped 10 years, and we see Anakin. He is now full-blown Padawan under the guidance of long-haired Obi-Wan and big beard.
Yep.
A total badass as always. And so, Gio, let me start with you, man. What was your first memory of watching Star Wars in theater or Attack of the Clones per se? What'd you think?
Oh man, it's funny how I remember just how bored I was watching this movie. Honestly,
okay.
Outside of the action
Even as a
scenes,
kid?
outside of the action scenes, like for me, the beginning was boring. I was like, man, so they finally pull out their lightsabers to kill the two little
slugs
things.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, lightsabers. I'm like, they put it back in there. I'm like, damn it. Like, and then like it goes on and on up until when
You didn't like the chase scene?
Jango Fett. No, I thought it was
The
boring.
chase. I thought the chase scene was cool. I'm with you on that one. I thought it was pretty cool.
I didn't like the slugs in the room.
No, that was stupid.
The chase scene
I thought
was.
the chase scene was boring.
I loved it.
I love when he jumps out. We'll get to that later, actually.
Yeah.
We'll get to
So it was mostly boring. Like, and then the love thing. I didn't care about the love thing. I was 11 years old at the time. I was just like, what is?
Well, we'll get to your negatives.
No, I'm trying to say like.
Okay.
He's saying what he thought as a kid.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
like-
okay.
like-
Yeah, this is how he perceived it as a
like
kid.
what made it boring, And then the end kind of saved it for me, but I still wasn't impressed. Like everyone was like, "Yeah,
With
Yoda."
Count Dooku?
With Yoda, I was like, "Yeah," they're like, "Yeah, Yoda," and I was just like, "Okay," like
Darth Tyrannus, man.
shoulder shrug. So all in all, it was pretty boring.
So you were bored from the get-go, from the first moment you saw it.
I don't know
Wow.
why. I mean, I remember seeing the magazine cover, and I don't know what issue it was or what magazine it was, but when it showed Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker, I was like, oh, who is this guy? It's Anakin. All right, cool. Yeah, I go into the movie and I'm just bored.
Is that because of
Wow, I was
him
not
or
expecting
because of the
that.
movie?
It's just because of the movie.
Okay.
I mean, I'm speaking as an 11-year-old.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if we're talking about now,
Wow, I'm
we'll get
curious
into that
to
later.
hear what
It's
he
crazy.
thinks now.
That's
That was
crazy.
Yeah.
His
All right,
reaction
well,
back
Jacob,
then.
we're going to go over to you. So what'd you think or what was your first, do you remember watching it in theaters and what'd you think of
Yeah, same drive, same way to the theater. Well, when I was, at the time I was living in Palm Springs, California, and the town I lived in didn't have a movie theater, so we had to drive to the
it?
next
So you had to drive,
town.
okay.
And it was like a 30-minute drive, so
Okay.
I always remembered it. But again, I loved it as a kid. Actually, I didn't love it as much as I loved Phantom Menace because there wasn't the pod racing moment.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't anything equivalent to Darth Maul. There wasn't anything equivalent to the Darth Maul fight. But I loved it almost just as much when I was a kid. Again, like visually, how are you not fascinated as a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid? Like, oh my God, like this is the greatest thing you've ever seen. And it just started with The Phantom Menace. It continued with, and even today, it still looks as visually stunning. So I absolutely loved them as a kid. And I don't know, when I was younger, I was like, especially after The Phantom Menace, I was obsessed with Natalie Portman. Like I had the hugest crush on her. So, as a kid, the romance scenes I liked because I was like, that's my girl. Like I was like, looked at it as if I was Anakin, and that was me, telling her that I love her. So it's like as a kid, you imagine those type of things. So for me, I wasn't able to recognize that it was boring. I just ate it all up because it was Star Wars. So ask 10-year-old me. The greatest movie ever.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it in theaters. I don't remember if I was at the theater or not, but I remember enjoying the living hell out of it. I was younger, and I just remember enjoying it from, especially the arena scene. I remember having so much fun with the arena scene.
We'll get into that when we go for positive specifically.
And and I even enjoyed the fight at the end. I thought it was fun, and the scene where Anakin gets his arm shot off or cut off per se, and And then I thought the best scene in the movie was Obi-Wan versus Jango Fett, El Camino. Really cool, really fun in the rain, going back and forth. Two equals going after each other. Obviously, the love stuff was kind of boo-hoo, but
even as a kid,
I mean, I like Natalie Portman and all, but I was just like, this is Star Wars, I don't really need it. But I mean, I had a lot more fun with it than I did Phantom Menace. Like, I had a lot more fun with it, and it was very exciting. Okay. I enjoyed it. I remember just loving it, eating it up. And yeah, I mean, it's a bummer because I don't remember watching it in theaters, but I just remember watching it and having a lot of fun with it. So, but let's go over to positives, and Jacob, I'm going to shoot it right back to you. What are the positives for Attack of the Clones?
Just, what is that planet? Oh, Coruscant, the one there in
Coruscant,
the chase scene.
Yes.
I loved that chase scene.
The chase scene's good.
It's incredible. And like, it's cheesy, yeah, but like, when he jumps down and he's like put his arms out, and Obi-Wan's like, I hate it when he does that.
And it's like, okay, he's done this a million times before.
Like,
it hints at the relationship they have.
Like, Anakin's like a rebel kid, and like Obi-Wan always has to like worry about him, and it makes sense because when he's young, if he's like headed towards the path that we all know he takes, he's gonna like not listen to Obi-Wan a lot, And just I love in all the Star Wars movies the world building, like all these planets and we don't really see that many planets in the Phantom Menace. We see a lot of planets.
There's a lot of planets in there,
Attack of the Clones, and every single one is fascinating. Like Coruscant, we see
Camino, Geonosis.
Nah, the Battle of Geonosis.
That's cool.
Called
that's cool.
The Battle of Geonosis.
That's pretty cool.
So in the original trilogy, you only get to see Luke and Obi-Wan. Like those are the only Jedi's you get to see, and even in the Phantom Menace, you don't get you get to see Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn fight, but that's really it. You get to see an army of Jedi's fight. How is that not awesome? Like, how is that not awesome?
Yeah.
I absolutely love that scene. I'll go back today and watch it and love it.
Well, it's cool because this is the moment where we knew that the Attack of the Clones was a pivotal point in the Star Wars galaxy because each squad of clones had their Jedi commander.
Yeah.
They each had their own unit. And you see them come together and fight in this whole battle sequence.
It's awesome. Not like, the Clone Wars are referenced in the original trilogy, so it's not like it's all just made up for this movie, So it makes sense, and it makes me think even more, because I heard that he had all these stories planned out.
Oh, he's had them for years.
Yeah.
In that article we talked about earlier, apparently after Return of the Jedi, it was only a few years afterwards he put all this stuff together.
Yeah, so
back in the 80s.
I think that's awesome, and I absolutely love that scene when all the Jedis are rushing and some of them are getting shot down, and it's even though it's made for kids, it's very violent. So I really enjoyed that. Obviously the Camino scene with Obi-Wan,
Jango Fett.
That's freaking incredible. And I love the Yoda fight. I thought it was amazing. That's the only time we get to see Yoda kick some ass in live action. So
and in episode 3.
Oh yeah, that's true. He fights
Sidious,
Palpatine at the end, but I didn't really enjoy that fight as much as I enjoyed this one with him and Count Dooku. That was and just the whole scene.
Well, I love that he walks up limping with his cane.
Yeah, the whole scene.
And then he just badasses it out.
And a moment in the movie, whether you might think it's cheesy now or it's just forcing nostalgia or whatever, but that first time you hear the Imperial March when Palpatine's looking over his army, and you just hear you start hearing it, that gives me chills most times that I watch it, because it's just that score along with the villains in Star Wars is just incredible, and it's epic. So yeah, those are most of the things that I enjoyed about the film.
I'll echo a lot you said. The Battle of Geonosis is definitely one that stands out. You just see armies going back and forth with each other. Like I said before, the arena scene is something that I enjoy the hell out of. Seeing them fight these monsters alongside Geonosian people or creatures, I should say. Definitely the final fight scene, Obi-Wan and Anakin against Dooku. And then Yoda versus Dooku. Very cool lightsaber stuff going on, even though it was somewhat choreographed. But I mean, there are definitely some great positives in it. The world building, like Jacob said, going from planet to planet, really seeing the largeness of the Star Wars universe. So Gio, let's shoot it over to you. Positives, do you got any good ones?
Yeah. First positive is Christopher Lee as Count Dooku. Amazing performance. I think it was right after he finished
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. So.
No, I agree with that though.
Excellent.
I didn't mention that, but
great casting. Yeah.
Dark Tyrannus, man.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Right in the beginning of the scene, and I'm speaking as me now, right? Like my positive.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's current day.
Yeah, like
yes, current.
Not
day.
me as a kid.
No, current day
now.
positive.
Because me as a kid wouldn't say this, but when Anakin, when you first see the tension between Anakin and Obi-Wan, it's clear for me that Anakin should not be a Jedi. He's immediately questioning Obi-Wan, where he's like, why not investigate? And then Obi-Wan's like, you will listen to me. And then he goes, why? And then Obi-Wan looks at him like, what? Mm-hmm. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. The Geonosis battle, I like how it kind of foreshadows the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
When you first see, it's in a wide open area. You just see droids coming and cloners coming.
Ships and walkers, they're all fight. Yeah, it's crazy.
That sequence shot where the ship falls and there's a whole bunch of sand coming up there, and you see the cloners just shooting into the sand, and they know they're hitting stuff. It's just badass. It's kind of sad, too, because you realize these cloners are the ones who later on are the stormtroopers from Ewoks against the Ewoks. Well, I mean, I'm assuming.
Well, we know that stormtroopers aren't clones.
Are they? Really? Who said that?
That's from...
Did George Lucas say that?
It's been confirmed, and it was confirmed in the Clone Wars.
All right, we're going to talk about that off air.
And Rebels.
Okay, we're going to talk about that off air. Let's see. Okay, I lost my train of thought.
Positives.
Positives. I know I have more. Damn it. Ugh.
The final fight scene, Yoda.
No.
No? Really?
Well, I'll say
Camino.
I'll say the build up where they're shooting the force back and forth, and
the lightning.
Yoda catches the lightning and shoots it back.
That's cool. Yeah, he grabs
the best scene in the movie, I think, is when Obi-Wan is on Camino, because there's no Hayden, there's no Jar Jar. It's just Ewan McGregor and all these aliens, and then Jango Fett. Talking. I love it. I love that whole entire.
I feel like that could be what the Obi-Wan spin-offs will be like. I want to see scenes like that.
I think because if it is an Obi-Wan spinoff, it's going to be him by himself.
Yes.
It's him after he dropped off Luke and the time he spent there.
Well, yeah.
But we'll talk about that.
He's going to be in hiding.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. So we're going to jump into negatives now.
I have one more.
Oh, one more positive?
One more. It's the music, the Anakin Padme music. What's it called?
Love Across the Galaxy.
Yes.
I love that score. I absolutely love it. It's all the music in all the Star Wars movies is amazing.
You can't go wrong with John Williams.
No matter what.
That's why John Williams is the best.
The best scores of all time.
Yeah. So we're going to jump into some negatives. I'm going to go ahead and start.
Okay.
So the big standout is the love story.
Yes.
It's like we've seen it in Star Wars before, obviously with Han and Leia and the love evolution they took over 3 films.
But it was never...
It wasn't this
corny.
It
was so subtle.
It was corny.
It built up.
Yeah, the Attack of the Clones stuff was just corny, and they tried to make it... It was rushed, and they tried to make it so serious to try and build up the fact that these are Luke and Leia's parents, and all this stuff going on, and the fact they go off alone and they have this playful shit in the grass, and it got really annoying and it gets corny, and it's definitely not one of its strong points. Another negative would be I didn't really enjoy the part where Anakin went off and started killing.
I forget the race, but the people that he blames for his mother's death.
The
Tusken Raiders. There you go, the Tusken Raiders.
Oh, that was a positive for me.
It was sad, and I thought that him finding his mother was a great positive, but it just didn't work for me very well. And
he said, "I killed them all. The children, the men, the women, the children. You just slaughtered
Slaughtered them like animals.
Women, and then she's like, "I love you."
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, there's kind of negatives all over the place. I mean, the stuff with Padme is obviously the standout. It's nothing against the characters in George Lucas. I know what he was trying to do. I get it because of what happened with the original trilogy. Luke and Leia being the kids of them, trying to build it up and whatnot. But it just did not work. And I notice it now, but Hayden Christensen might have not been the best choice for the character of Anakin.
No.
I'm just going to say might have. I get it. He fit the role. And I'm not going to blame it all on him because he needs direction as well. Exactly. He was a brand new actor who gets cast in this kind of movie. You got to give him some kind of direction, and obviously he wasn't given it, which sucks because the character could have been really, really good.
And he's not like horrible.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
but
imagine if a good director would have worked with him.
Exactly.
Do you know who was actually up to play Anakin? You know who, right?
No,
wasn't it?
It was Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah,
DiCaprio. I did hear that.
Yeah,
I did hear that.
Imagine, like, it wouldn't have changed who's directing.
That would have been crazy.
That would I could see him doing
that. Would have been crazy.
You know those scenes in Revenge of the Sith when Anakin's like going crazy and losing his mind?
That would have been nuts.
That would have been amazing.
Anyway, so that I'm sure something else is going to come to me, but those are my negatives for now. Jacob, negatives. What do you think? Anything new?
Well, again, they try to emphasize on the politics.
Yeah.
Again, like that's an ongoing thread throughout the prequels, and like I said, good idea, but just the execution wasn't right. And how is Palpatine getting away with all this stuff? Like it did not.
Yeah, they don't know he's Sidious already.
Like exactly. Like you can feel if you're a Force user, you can feel like bad vibes, and you can feel the dark side of the Force. And he was there. Unless he's so powerful, he can cover it up.
Well, he's pretty freaking powerful.
Which would make sense, but they don't really explain all that, I don't blame Hayden Christensen. He was given horrible dialogue. He was given horrible direction. But just right from the get-go, he's just a whiny little girl. Like what does he say, like, in the first opening scene, or like not the opening scene, but like 30 minutes into the movie when it's just him and Padme talking, and I forget where they are, but he's like, "I'm a better Jedi than Obi-Wan."
He gets angry.
He says that.
Yeah.
He says he's a better Jedi than Obi-Wan.
He says,
how is that even? That's not even possible. Like, he's barely. Obi-Wan had the proper training since he was a very young boy. Like, even though he didn't finish his trials or whatever. There's no question at this point. Anakin eventually becomes more powerful than Obi-Wan through the dark side, but he's so immature and he doesn't know what he's talking about. And that, we're supposed to, even though Darth Vader's a villain, he's arguably the most beloved character in Star Wars. And don't you want us to like Darth Vader?
Yeah.
The guy who becomes Darth Vader.
So the twist is even better.
He's so unlikable.
Yeah.
As a kid, I didn't know the difference, but now
I definitely agree with that.
He's so unlikable, and that's the worst thing they did. He's the main character, right? At least in the second
he's the main. It revolves around him. He's the main.
And how do you make your main character I hate him.
You don't care to see him on screen. You'd rather see Obi-Wan or someone else.
I can talk for an hour about how horrible the romantic relationship between Anakin and Padme are, but I'm not going to get into it.
Yeah, how about those scenes in the grass, man? The rolling back and forth.
So
great, right?
Look, going back to Phantom Menace, why do they love each other? There's nothing that builds the relationship. Right when he sees her as a kid, he's like, "You're an angel." He's in love with her. That's fine. A kid obsesses over older girls all the time, but he's deeply in love with her. Why? They haven't even seen each other in 10 years. And he's in love with her.
Mm-hmm. But a counter argument would be that that's the only girl that he's seen in between the 10 years in training.
Yeah.
I'm not defending.
That makes sense.
I am not defending.
There's no look, for Han and Leia, when they first meet, they don't like each other, and they very much dislike each other, and you see that relationship build up over time. They barely hint at it in A New Hope that they're like there's a flare between them.
Well, they hint at Luke and Leia, instead of Han and Leia.
Well, like you can see the sexual tension between Han and Leia, though. But so it's like there's no background to their relationship to even make me start to even believe for 1 second that they're in love. And why does she look? I could see him loving her, like because
but not her loving him.
Why would she love him?
Yeah.
And I just slaughtered a bunch of kids and women. I love you. I'm done.
All right, Gio, what do you got?
The worst Star Wars movie, in my opinion.
Let's keep talking about the love. From the time they're rolling on the grass and Anakin fixes an injury, and then they're eating across the dinner table and Anakin uses the Force
with the pear and
and then they're at the fireplace and Anakin's like, "I love you," like,
and they're sitting
if you're
there
feeling the same way I do,
staring into each other's eyes.
I know, it's like you're
and
totally.
She's like, we can't.
Yeah, he's like, yes.
It's like
I want to.
Totally teasing, and then finally at the end when they're about to go out to the arena, she says, "I love you," this and that. It's like
I was waiting for the "I know" moment.
Right?
Could you imagine?
I don't know.
Could you imagine if he said "I know"?
That would have been like the one great thing.
Could you imagine if he like Jacob? Would you have liked that if he said "I know"?
No.
She said "I love," and he goes "I know."
No, because it would have made the Han and Leia moment cheesy for me, and that's arguably my favorite moment in all
that
Star
moment's
Wars.
amazing. Like I want that moment.
Did you ever? His brother showed me, but did you ever watch the Family Guy Star Wars
Yeah.
things? And she's like, "I love you." He's like, "F off."
Yeah.
That's so funny, dude.
All right, Gio, what do you got? What else?
Oh man, let's talk about the lightsaber battles.
Which ones?
Terrible. Let's start with
Really terrible?
Yeah, let's start with
God.
not the Obi-Wan one, but when Anakin has 2 lightsabers and he's
going against Dooku.
And he has all this talk about I'm the better Jedi, and this and that. I've completed my training and whatnot. And he just gets his butt slaughtered.
Well, that's
To
like
be fair, Darth Tyrannus has been
But think about
a
think,
Jedi
a lot
for
of
like
movies do
50
that. Like
years.
think of like a I don't know. Let's say a boxing movie. This young and upcoming boxer thinks he's a total badass. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take this guy on."
But
the shit be out of it.
But it's the way they did it, though.
Okay.
I mean, because all right, so Anakin cuts off the power cord, right? And they're both standing there, and then they're waving their lightsabers across their faces.
Yeah,
and
that's
all
so
that.
cheesy.
And then they spin both at the same time, and you're just like, "What the hell am I watching here? Is this lightsaber
it
ballerina?"
was a dance. It was a dance.
Yeah,
I love those scenes.
They were
I'm
dancing.
sorry.
They were dancing.
Still
it's
love
just
those scenes.
and then the Yoda thing. All right, yeah, maybe it was cool, but it's just I don't know. Yoda, like yelling and just He reminded me of the dude from Quantum of Solace at the end. Just yelling and attacking. Just what else? What else? I don't have more. I know it. I know I have more. I can't think right now. See, I'm not prepared.
Battle of Geonosis. Did you like that?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did.
Cool.
I thought the battle against when they fought the animals, when Obi-Wan had
just
the
making
spear.
sure. Yeah, just making sure.
Yeah, that was cool.
So your negatives are good.
I think my negatives are good, but I know I'm gonna have.
All right, well,
more.
we'll get back to you if anything else comes up. So we're going to move on to how the movie has changed over the years. I know Jacob has already made his point it's the worst Star Wars movie ever, but I want to jump back to him anyway. Since its release and dozens of time watching it, what's your thought on it now?
Well, as a kid, The Phantom Menace was always my favorite, and I knew this back then that this was my least favorite of the Star Wars movies.
Okay.
Because Revenge of the Sith, well, you considered it a decent movie today.
I still consider it a decent movie, yeah.
Yeah, so, and for me, that was like, I loved that movie, just the whole, turn of Anakin when I was a kid, So, for this movie, I wasn't able to, see the romance, being forced. Like I said, I imagined that was me talking to Natalie Portman, so, it was cool. But now, I said before that elements in The Phantom Menace are unwatchable, they might be unwatchable. I can't watch these scenes with Anakin and Padme. I'll mute it or I'll fast forward it. I just can't watch it. And that, That's horrible. There's not a lot in Star Wars that I can't watch. Like I'll watch the Phantom Menace the whole way through and be fine, but there's parts of this movie that I cannot watch. Even though I really enjoy, you've heard me talk about like the Battle of Geonosis is actually one of my favorite moments in any Star Wars movie. So, my perspective as far as the story and like the romantic elements have changed a lot, but I've actually grown to appreciate the things that I like. Okay. So that's how it's changed for me.
Gio, what do you think?
Not as boring as I thought it was as a kid, but
so you're entertained by it more now.
A little more, yeah.
Nice.
Wow, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, I was definitely more entertained. It's missing that Qui-Gon presence, if you know what I mean.
The almost father presence.
Yeah,
because Obi-Wan wasn't there yet.
Right. Whereas some of the slower scenes in Phantom Menace, it was Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon that held it up. Whereas it's missing, and I think the film suffers. And as boring as it was, I kind of see where Lucas was trying to go with a love story, but it just doesn't work out. It's almost to the point where it's entertaining because it's so terrible. Yeah. So that's my thoughts.
Okay. Well, yeah. I said that I enjoyed this one a lot more than the Phantom Menace when it first came out. But just like the Phantom Menace, over the years I've realized that it's not such a good movie. I still think it's better than the Phantom Menace in my mind, but it's not. I don't think it's anywhere near the Revenge of the Sith or anywhere near the original trilogies, obviously. Mm-hmm. There are definitely elements that I do not like, but there are definitely elements that I liked, and I love the direction that we're going. The Battle of Geonosis, setting off the Clone Wars was very cool, seeing the clones in action. And like Jacob said, the Jedi stuff, seeing them for the first time with lightsabers together. I mean, that was the wow moment. I know that there's not really that pod racing Darth Maul moment in Attack of the Clones.
Yes.
But that was the moment of the movie because we've never seen Jedi like that before on screen.
When they're all standing around and they got their backs to each other and they're all holding their lightsabers.
It's so awesome. It's such a good moment. But I mean, it's obviously. I mean, it sucks that the movie wasn't too good because I would have loved to be able to watch these movies over and over and over again.
I have one more positive.
Oh, hey, that's good. Go for it.
Padme's outfit.
The white one?
Yeah.
God. Natalie Portman, dude. Like you said, she was the major crush. Like she was the major crush. Yeah. And that'll probably never leave because
Star Wars.
Dude, yeah. So no, hey, that's a great positive. Good point. But like we all said, I mean,
get scratched on the back.
Yeah. Like we all said, though, I mean, it's still Star Wars, and there are movies that we're gonna watch forever. We're gonna show them to our kids in the future, and they're always gonna hold a special place in our heart, no matter how much we hate them or are disappointed by them.
Yes.
They are still Star Wars. So, any last thoughts, fellas, on episode 1, episode 2? Anything else you guys can think of before we wrap up?
This conversation kind of makes me want to rewatch it again, which I will probably.
We probably will before The Force Awakens.
Before The Force Awakens comes out, yeah.
Got less than a month, so.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, so there might be kids out there who were too young when the prequels came out. Like I'm talking like 2 or 3 years old, and like they weren't. So they didn't see the prequels till maybe they're a lot older, So. Like actually able to understand them and process them. So I'm talking like maybe that 15-year-old kid today has heard that these movies are horrible and they're going to go into them thinking negatively. And I say don't do that. Like I would say go watch them and give them the benefit of the doubt. Like you might enjoy elements of them. Don't go into the movies expecting to hate them because then you're going to think negative the whole time. Like just sit back and leave everything at the door and watch the movies and enjoy them for what they are and know they're not as good as the original trilogy, but they're still Star Wars and there's still cool things in these movies, and Star Wars would not be what it is today if it wasn't for these movies.
Well, it's like we talked about earlier, we grew up on these movies because we're the generation that they came out with.
Right.
And
they came out for us.
A lot of our generation loved this trilogy because it's their trilogy.
Exactly.
You should go in with that kind of mindset. There's a lot of people that love these movies, And
even say they're not bad
and
movies.
even if you go look at ratings, the reviews aren't that bad for them. They're like 50% or above. So they aren't terrible movies. It's just that
it's the disappointment of
Yeah, exactly.
Not being
it's the
Star
hype.
Wars.
It's because the original trilogy is so damn good.
Yeah.
Like if
that's
this
the
was
only
just
reason
a
why.
random space
Well,
opera.
it's like we talked about with Spectre. It's because it followed Skyfall.
Exactly. Because Spectre's not a bad movie.
It's because it's followed Skyfall. So, like Jacob said, go into it looking forward to the movies. It's still Star Wars, and there's a high possibility of you still liking them, and there's great elements for it. So, that's going to wrap up our first Padawan Podcast review session of Episode 1 and Episode 2. Look forward for the next one. We're going to be reviewing Episode 3 and Episode 4. Which is going to be very cool.
That's going to be interesting because it's one movie from the prequels,
exactly.
one movie from the original.
That's definitely going to be very cool.
And it's like they pick off kind of, even though it's like a huge time jump.
So it's going to be very cool to see. We're going to do that in 2 weeks. So look out for that. Before we go, fellas, where can I find you online? Gio?
This is C3Gio. You can find me on Twitter at GeorgiaRamos24.
Jacob?
And I'm Grand Moff Bartley, Jacob Bartley. You can find me on Twitter at Governor Bartley and anywhere, Facebook, Instagram, Jacob Bartley. And on this YouTube channel, please subscribe. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and you can find me, Jake Berlin, at Twitter, Instagram, at Qui-Gon Jake. You can find us on Facebook, and make sure to click subscribe for us, guys. And thanks for listening. Until next time, may the Force be with you.